Skin that smoke wagon and see what happens.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know how this machine worked.
It seems to run on some form of electricity.
And it was wrong. It was a bad call, Ripley. It was a bad call.
Bad call.
Some are good for fighting, others for dying.
It's just two movies.
And welcome back to another episode of It's Just Two Movies. I'll be your host like every single time that you ever tune into this show. It'll always be me every time. I'll always be here for you. However, Birdman will not. Today, I'm afraid to report that he is literally lost in a hedge maze in West Virginia. He ventured out there alone into a hedge maze. I'm not sure what for. He did call me a couple hours ago to ask for help. I told him I had to record a show tonight, so he's not going to be here. If you tune in next week, you'll see if he was able to make it out of the hedge maze, or if he was like butt-fucked to death by a minotaur, or whatever happens inside of those things. With me today instead is my good friend Doug Wicker, who is also a filmmaker, aspiring writer. Is that also fair to say? You do your fair share of writing?
Yeah, I write a lot.
Okay. Fantastic photographer. I'll let Doug pick two movies, as is customary on the show. So if you're not familiar with what we do, we take a look at two movies. In the title, that part's evident. What's not evident is the fact that one of the movies, at least one of us perceives as a good film before we even start. And the other movie, by all accounts, just giving it a general Google, is not very good. Today we're going to be watching The Devil's Backbone, is the movie that we watched in preparation for this. A little info up top here. This is a November 2001 release, directed by Mr. Guillermo del Toro. This is on a budget of $4.5 million, made about $2 million in the box office. Stars, okay, a lot of these names I can pronounce just fine. Some of them I'm going to have a little difficulty with. I've got Fernando Tielve as Carlos, who's going to be our protagonist. I've got Federico Lupi, probably Federico Lupe, as Dr. Casares?
Close enough.
Something like that? What is it? Do you know?
I'm not actually sure because...
Okay. I tell you, I took 2 years of Spanish in high school.
Can't tell.
And I learned more, thank you. I learned more Spanish working at a place with a guy who was learning Spanish to have sex with a Spanish girl that he knew that did not speak very much English at all.
That's a noble
And it
purpose.
worked because he submersed himself in it. If you had to go ask him a question, he'd be like, no hablo español, no hablo inglés. And you would have to go back to your computer, get on fucking Babelfish, this is if that dates it at all, and figure out how to ask him in Espanol, whatever the question was. Anyway, you've also got Eduardo Noriega, as Jacinto, Maria Paredes as Carmen, Irene Vicedo as Conchita, Inigo Garces as Jaime, and Junio Valverde as Santi. So now that we've gotten that big cast out of the way, thanks for recommending this, man. You knew out of the gate that I'm a big fan of Guillermo del Toro.
I did.
Although he's made plenty of stuff I've never seen. I've liked everything that I have seen that he's ever made. So that being said, I'm always excited to watch a piece of his work, which, this podcast gives me a great avenue to do. I'm going to give this movie a solid 8 thumbs. I thought it was great. Guillermo del Toro has a way of making a girl sitting in the corner of a room brushing her hair tense. He can make that a tense thing. And like the most arbitrary things, like clipping your fucking fingernails, giving yourself a shave. He just makes it like uncomfortable to watch on screen because there's this weird
rhythm to it.
This weird like rhythm and tension to it. Yeah. Guillermo del Toro, if you haven't seen Pan's Labyrinth, is my favorite piece of Guillermo del Toro's work. I have a 10-year-old, so we watched The Book of Life.
Yep.
Also a Guillermo del Toro joint. It was great. I liked it a lot. I thought it was a whole lot of fun, which is weird because up to that point I hadn't seen him do anything kind of, I don't want to say shtick. That's not the right word.
He produces a lot.
Lighter.
It was
a little lighter.
He's got a lot of kid stuff. You'd actually, if you go look at his producing credit, you would see like weird stuff like Megamind that he was like,
really?
He was like a consulting producer on. So he he uses his name a lot to help people get stuff made. He tends to also get credit for it, kind of like Tim Burton did with Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
Where it's like not really his thing, but his hands on it.
Yeah, so this whole flick is all in subtitles. It's all in Espanol, which I am fine with. I have watched plenty of things in Spanish or in other languages. We were just talking about our favorite movies from last year. As Parasite was one of mine.
Man,
Jojo Rabbit and Parasite were like my two favorite movies in 2019. But know that if you do decide to watch the film, it is all in subtitles. It was a breezy, fun, like tense. It's listed as a horror drama, and I couldn't agree more. It's right on the head. It is dramatic. It is tense. It is a little chilling. It being a 2001 release, it is a bit dated. However, the special effects that they use for the character Santi, who is like a ghost, God, he fucking looks amazing.
Absolutely, yeah.
He looks amazing for 2001. Like, it looks really, really good.
And especially, Mexican production teams and visual effects artists who at that time really didn't have as much experience as they would now.
And it was, for the visual effects, it was up for a couple of awards. I didn't write them down, but I did, make note of that it got nominated for several things. Whether it won or not, I fucking don't know. Yeah, I'm giving this movie a firm 8 thumbs up. Never seen it before. I thought it was great. As to anyone who's uninitiated, who's looking for a good horror drama, what do you give it?
Oh, if I had to give it a rating, I would agree. It's definitely an 8 out of 10 for me. It's actually a movie that I hadn't seen. I had to actually go look for it. I'd only seen it a few years ago, maybe like 8 years ago or so. And it was, it was after Pan's Labyrinth. I wanted to watch it, man, so I blind bought it.
That's awesome.
Because awesome. Guillermo hasn't let me down yet, and this movie is considered one of his great ones.
Yeah, I'm gonna stand by that and put my foot down and say, yeah, it's a shame that it only made like $2 million.
Yeah, it's a subtitle thing. That's
a subtitle. I think that's like your average American consumer. But yeah, no, watch this movie, buy it, rent it, please, because it's fantastic. If you're curious what it's about. There's a little boy that gets injured, presumably in a bombing at the beginning, and then he's tied up and dumped into like a well or a pool or something like that, some body of water. There's a cool little talk down bit about ghosts in the intro, which turns out to be Federico Lupe as Dr. Casares. That's going to be my best guess. Casares. Anyway, I will refer to him as the Doctor. So anyway, it turns out that your narrator is the Doctor, big shaker. But it's got a Del Toro charm right out of the gate. It's got his kind of brand. Like in the opening credits, they do that weird where it shows the devil's backbone, which they used to call like a spinal deformity. It's just really well shot. The whole thing's great. I'll touch on it a little bit later. Essentially, what happens here is the little boy, Carlos, again played by Fernando Tielve, his dad's dead. He's got like a caretaker or a tutor looking after him. And he can't take care of him, so he's like, I'm going to take him to this school for like wayward boys or, whatever it is. It's out in the middle of BFE in Mexico. He drops him off. The kid makes a couple new friends. So he takes off and leaves him. The kid, Carlos, immediately starts to see, like ghosty, spooky stuff. Which again, just to reiterate, looks fucking amazing in this movie. After this, you get introduced to a couple of the other people in the cast. You get to meet... the doctor, you get to meet Carmen, who's like the head mistress teacher lady. You get to meet Jacinto, who seems like he's like a groundskeeper or like a handyman. I'm not 100% on what his role is besides being a general shit disturber and douchebag, but he is there. And his girlfriend, Conchita, again played by the lovely Irene Vicedo. You've also got a couple of the kids that are worth mentioning. Santi, he's the little boy in the opening credit scene that looks like he got murdered. You don't know. There's bombs dropping on a city.
Serious head trauma.
He's
happening.
Dead. Exactly. Yeah, he's got big head trauma. And Jaime, played by Ingo Garces.
I'm sorry.
Ingo Garces, maybe. What's that?
So I'm sorry I did this to you.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I actually don't mind because the other movie is Italian, and I would rather pronounce 15 of these than try to get away with his first name again. But I'll do it. I'll figure it out. It's not pronounced like it looks at all.
Yeah, and he's got a pseudonym he used for the movie. So if you looked it up and you saw the Italian name, there's actually the American version.
Is it just like George?
It's like Michael Paradise or something.
Okay, yeah. It sounds...
And other than like key members of that crew, they're all Americans that were in the movie.
Right, just real whitewashed.
Yeah.
So you get this little boy. He's staying there. Normally, we take a little more time to go through the plot with you. I want you to watch this movie. What the film is about, there's a little boy. He gets dropped off at a boy's home. He sees a ghost. He makes 2 friends. He meets the village bully or whatever, which is another kid, Jaime, played by Ingo Garces. I'm going to say that's close enough.
Sounds good.
Yeah. He meets the bully. You know, they do what kids do, kind of picks on each other. There's a happenstance with a ghost. He's the only one who sees it. The bully's like, you won't, bitch. And he's like, yeah, you won't, bitch.
And there's like a really interesting thing where like some of the younger kids absolutely believe that Santi's a ghost, and he's there. Yeah. And the older kids trying to be tough or trying to deny that he's there. But there's like this unspoken thing where all the kids kind of
they know
they hear him moaning around and creeping around, but you know the tough kids don't want to let that out. They don't want to show that.
Yeah, they're trying to big brother the other little kids. It is really sweet. It's a great portrayal. This is good directorial work. This is really good casting. You got all these kids in here and they're all phenomenal. There's not one that's like, well, that's kind of half-assed, isn't it? Maybe do another take on that one.
No,
they're all great, just outstanding. So you got these kids being kids. There's a ghost. Other things that happen in the film. Carmen, played by Marissa Paredes. Carmen, so she's like the headmaster. Anyway, she's having an affair with Jacinto, who's like just a general bad dude. So
but you don't know that right away.
You don't know that right away.
Kind of know he's a dick.
He's got a villainous
he's got a dick. And there's a darkness to him, but he's definitely, it's not right up front. It takes a little bit to kind of realize he's got some other shit going on.
Yeah, it does. You think maybe he's just having a bad day?
Yeah, you think that might be the case.
When
a
you
little bit of resentment towards the authority figures.
Yeah. He hates it there. Mm-hmm. He hates it there. He's not happy. But he does know that Carmen, who is the headmistress of the house, that she has access to a safe that he has discovered in the kitchen area, where he thinks there's a lot of gold or money or what have you in there. And he's right. They put the new kid in Santi's old bed. And Santi's the kid that, you see in the opening credits getting killed or, he's dead. Somebody ties him up and they drop him in the drink. So the kids start seeing shit first night. All the kids, they kind of dare him to... Essentially, the dare is, hey, you're going to go down to the kitchen in the middle of the night.
Get water, if I remember right.
Yeah, right. They're going to get some water. So him and the bully, who he calls out, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, fucking, I guess maybe you're a bitch, huh? You're the bitch. I'm not a bitch. It was great. It was good kid stuff. So they both go down there. They're getting the water. The bully gets his water first. He's like, fucking, see you back up top, bitch.
He totally sketches on him.
He rolls out because he's scared as fuck. Little pussy. Yeah. And your protagonist here, Carlos, he sees the ghost and he's going downstairs and he sees this like body of water. I'm assuming that that's a cistern. It's never 100% clear.
Yeah,
it just
they're
fills
not
up
super
with
clear.
rainwater.
Yeah, I think it's some kind of runoff.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. So you find out kind of in a manner of speaking that because the headmistress gave the kid... Now see, this is something I thought from the beginning and actually turned out to be wrong. The headmistress, while she's looking at her keys, she's like looking at them very carefully when she's hooking them up with the bed from the dead kid. And she's checking out her keys, and they make kind of a deal out of it with the cinematography, which, by the way, is gorgeous in this throughout. The fucking color palette, the warm and cool contrast, it just looks fucking amazing. So she's being very selective about the keys, and she finally hands him a key and goes, this is for your locker or whatever. So presumably it was Santi's old locker, and then you see the safe, and Jacinto's trying to open the safe with the key, and it won't fucking turn. And that's when Carlos is coming out of the basement because he's scared of the ghost or whatever. You know that Jacinto is trying to get into the safe. You know that all the kids know that there's a ghost and they all think that it's Santi. And you know for sure that Carlos knows Jacinto is trying to get into the safe. You know these things without question. So in the following scene... Oh, and also Ghost Boy. I mean, I know I've said it multiple times, but the first time you get like a real good, like kind of close up look at the like ghost kid, he looks fucking great.
Yeah, absolutely.
He looks great. I don't know if that's like a practical effect that's overlaid over something else.
It's a beautiful design. I mean, I think that's what Del Toro does super well. Is like his creature designs are always exceptional. And Santi, I feel like one of the first ones. I think he had a lot of. He hit that like tragic, sad note with.
Yeah.
That he does so well later on.
That's also a little disturbing. Like he still has the wound that's still bleeding all the time.
And you notice like the hole in his head. It's like it's bleeding, but it's water coming out of his head. Yeah,
right.
It's like floating, like because he's still underwater.
He's still exactly.
And he's gaunt, looking like he's drowned.
Yeah.
And
but there's pale, like little waterlogged looking.
Yes, and there's like this total sadness in his eyes the whole time.
You even see like the little particles like kind of floating off of him as things tend to do, suspended in water.
So if I remember right, they did that. It was like a practical like special effects build on his head, and then they just added like CG, kind of like the water and like some of the effects and stuff.
Fucking looks so good.
Perfect combination.
Yeah, it's great, man. So the kids eventually get caught. Carlos gets caught by Jacinto, who's our kind of our baddie, and tells the doctor. And the doctor tells him the next day at breakfast, he's like, "Hey, who's in on this with you, you little shit?" He doesn't say, so he uses some mind games on him. Anyway, he kind of figures out who his accomplices are, but he never rats out the bully, which is extremely important. So they all get extra chores for it, which it seemed like all the kids got extra chores anyway. So it didn't seem like they really got punished at all.
Yeah,
man,
I think some got shittier jobs than others.
Yeah, man, carrying this Jesus on a crucifix sucks real bad. They're like, wow, he's really heavy for a dead guy. They make a couple of little wisecracks about it, but like all the kids are also doing work. That bit was a little like, I guess that's the worst job. I would be like, go scrub the shitter.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much a hot movie. It feels hot, but it doesn't.
Yeah,
like that moment doesn't feel as hot as it probably should.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Like they should just be sweating their asses off doing that part. Anyway, it's still real good. The kids are having some fun banter together. The bully tries to razz on Carlos again. He's like, man, fucking just knock it off, bro. And I ain't like that, dog. So eventually they become friends. In the following introductory, like after the doctor scolds the kids, you get a scene with the doctor and Carmen. And man, fucking, he is sweet. I know. He's just a sweet, clever old man. He's like real artsy. He's nicely dressed. He loves
totally romantic.
He loves poetry. He's a big romantic, and he just he's very articulate.
Is it the scene where she's in bed and woke up and he's in the next room? They share a wall and he's singing, like like reciting a poem to her.
Yeah, he's like giving her a prose
as he's getting ready in the morning.
Oh yeah,
and she's listening to it. So he does this every morning. You can tell. Yeah, and they're totally in love with each other, but there's a catch.
Right, and the catch is that she's fucking Jacinto. Or Jacinto is fucking her. She also has a prosthetic leg, which is neither her nor... By the way, as far as prosthetic legs go, pretty fucking good-looking prosthetic leg.
2001, yep.
It is... it's like a combination of, I assume, maybe like aluminums and wood. Yep. And like a little gold trim on it. Like it's a fucking beautiful prosthetic leg.
Really well done.
Probably not very practical.
Oh, but, no, you couldn't use that in real life.
Yeah.
In a movie, yeah.
Right.
Not
through the dialogue exchanges, you come to find out that Carmen, this like headmistress lady, she's a little bit older. She's probably like in her 50s. 50s or 60s maybe. Just good looking, well brought up. She talks shit on her husband like, oh, he went to go die for his ideas and left me here to defend him. Don't praise him, praise me. She's like, I'm not scared of shit.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably an important time to also say that it's against the background of like the Spanish Civil War during this time.
Yes.
So, there's a bomb dropped at the very opening of the scene during a raid. That's what Danny was talking about earlier. When the bomb lands, it does not go off. But there's all this noise happening around the time that Santi's, presumably murdered.
Right.
This backdrop for the adults plays a factor in why there's so many orphans and why there's so many people sent off to war and like all these people looking for gold. Yeah. And exactly what you're saying here, where it's like at the same time there's this, her husband goes off to fight against for the Marxists.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait,
and
against.
She's left there to kind of watch all these kids. Her, the doctor, two of the help, and like 18 kids.
Yeah, 18, 20 kids. Yeah.
Man, there would not be a dirty spot in that house. But guess what? We do on Tuesdays and Thursdays, everybody. Scrub the whole fucking house, I guess. Anyway, just really well put. That's kind of like the backdrop for the story. The old man, he takes Carlos into his room and he's like, he's charming and he's clever. He's all over the place. He's got these like jars with fetuses in it. And this is where you get a little bit about the devil's backbone. It was like a birth defect. A spinal birth defect. One of these, fetuses are freshly born babies or whatever the fuck you want to call it. They're suspended in liquid in a kind of like a golden amber colored liquid, which, by the way, I thought was also very nice that liquid in the jars for the babies matches the color of the liquid in the end scene where the color palette in this thing is just fucking
very consistent,
phenomenal.
really
it's
rich.
So good. There's so many little, little wink and a nod, if you will. But anyway, he's telling this kid, Carlos, he's like, oh, are those, what are they in? He's like, oh, it's a liquid. He calls it a Agua De Limbo. And just to preserve fetuses and shit. And he's telling him about the devil's backbone kind of deformity and stuff. And he tells him that it's like rums and clove and spices. That's the liquid. It's booze. And he's getting a ladle out. and he pours some into a shot glass. He's like, oh yeah, it can cure fucking blindness and deafness, and some people say impotence.
Yes.
And he's like, you know, if you're gonna believe you saw a ghost, you might as well go ahead and drink this, right? And he's like, no, I don't fucking want none. No, that's nasty, boy. All right, get the hell out of here, kid. And then he stares longingly off into space and then drinks it.
Yeah, it still grosses me out so bad because you just watched him.
You know, it's all
this.
props. It's probably just fucking
sure,
like
but, you
apple
know,
juice.
In the moment, you're still like, that was fetus liquid.
Yeah, it's probably like apple juice and one.
But that's the background that we were talking about earlier. Is like the doc clearly he has boner problems.
Oh yeah,
and that's why he can't pursue his romantic relationship.
And that's why the lady is banging Jacinto.
And she would much rather be hooking up with Doc, but it's just not playing out. It's not happening.
Just give her.
He's gonna keep drinking baby fetus juice.
Give her the old finger blast. Did they not do? They didn't do like orals because they're probably Roman Catholic. Maybe orals a bit.
Yeah. Clearly for procreational reasons only.
I don't know. That's a shame. That's a shame. I don't know. Do you know how to say that's a shame in Espanol?
I don't. I wish I could.
Me neither. Email me at it's just two movies at gmail.com. You like that little shoehorn in that?
That was excellent.
Try to do it every episode. Doesn't always happen. The old man's definitely impotent. That's why she's banging the younger guy, Jacinto. And Jacinto is slowly stealing her keys. When he goes in the room and he's giving her the old in, out, he's done. He's like, oh, fuck, it's so sweaty in Mexican.
She's just a little more tired than him. She's a little bit up there. Well,
she also has a prosthetic leg that she doesn't have on.
She's a cougar, and he's just a cub.
She is a cougar, but she's a good-looking older lady.
She is, absolutely,
She's still got it going on.
Jacinto's like, I still got some energy in me. I got a girlfriend still.
And he'll
pulling double duty.
Yeah, so he just goes over there where she can't kind of see him, and he steals one of her keys and then replaces the other one. And I think, in retrospect, that opening scene where I'm like, she's looking at her keys and they kind of make a deal out of it and she's making facial expressions, I think she's realizing that she is short one key. Mm-hmm. And that's what that scene is. Not that they gave that key to Carlos, but that
a red herring.
Yeah, exactly. It eventually comes to light that the bully is the one who knows like where Santi is. He knows how he got killed and all this other stuff. And who, put him in the cistern.
Are we jumping to because he saw it happen?
No, because Carlos gets into his locker and is like looking through his sketchbook because they're buddies now. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh man, your drawings are real good. He's like, don't even fucking worry about my drawings. They don't mean shit.
Yeah,
and he's looking
I'm going
at
to be
the
a
drawings.
comic book artist, and you're not going to write them.
Right? Yeah, and it's definitely him drawing, like him dealing with him seeing his friend get killed.
Can we talk real briefly about his amazing nude woman drawing?
Yeah, he's like, I'll trade you 3 marbles for this picture of a naked woman
with a sideways vagina.
It's really well done, and the vagina is like the same. It's the same as her mouth. It's just between her legs.
Half of the kids are really impressed by this because clearly they've never seen a nude woman.
One kid calls him out on it. He's like, the vagina's the wrong way.
And he's just like, shut up.
Flipping it at 90. He's like, you don't fucking know what it looks like. God, it's really fun. It just. The whole bit with all the kids is fucking perfect. It's like the war.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just really, really well characterized and shot. It doesn't feel, towards the end, it kind of feels a little Lord of the Fliesy, but...
Mm-hmm. Which could only mean child murder.
Right. Carlos and Jaime, the bully kid, they're thick as thieves. And Jaime also has a thing for the groundskeeper's old lady, which is Conchita, again played by Irene Vicedo. We get a little better look at, he gives her a little gift that he finds, just like a cigar wrapper, but it's shiny. Mm-hmm. He gives it to her and puts her on her like a ring, and she gives him a little peck on the cheek, and he's like, fucking love that girl.
I'm gonna marry you one day.
Yep. It's exactly.
When I grow up and you're 45.
You hear the music swell in the background. Little ditty about Jack and Diane.
Sucking on jelly dogs.
Yeah, you don't get that. You could, though. But it wouldn't be a horror drama if you did. So we eventually get a better look at Santi. Carlos goes back down into the cistern. He's like, fucking talk to me, bro. I'm not scared of you, dog. It's all good, man. Just come out and tell me what's going on. What's shaking? What's mad with you? It looks so fucking good. And then there's a bit where Carlos is running out. He's running through a long corridor, and Santi is right behind him. And they do it's like a long pan shot of Santi, because everything else you've seen is relatively close up and it all looks great. This one, you're probably like 40, 50 feet away, and the veil that made it look so good up close, it's a little harder to see through at that distance. And it's got I don't know. There was something a little jarring about watching that part where I was like, is this the same? This is the same like production value, or just maybe this one scene had some major issues with it?
Sometimes that's the case.
I think of like a closer up or like a close up on him and then do a slow like kind of Kubrick 180. You know what I mean? To show where he's going rather than looking at him coming into. I don't know. The vantage on it was weird or something. It was something that I did note. It's very minor. It didn't take away from the film at all, but it's something I wrote down because, you know.
It knocked 1/100th of a point off.
Well, you don't normally sit there and take notes on a fucking on a computer while you're watching a movie.
Yeah.
I don't anyway. I just watch them and like have a beer and be like, whoa, this fucking shit's crazy, man.
Especially on like a first viewing on something like this, the subtitles kind of keep you hostage. Or
I'm a fairly decent typist, I'll have you know. Didn't hinder me too much. There were a couple of lines that I missed. So Dr. Old Guy is frantically pretending, like with the school marm lady, like, hey, we gotta go. It's time to roll out. There are murdering motherfuckers in the street. We gotta go. You and me, we gotta pack our shit. We gotta get the hell out of Dodge. Because previously he witnessed, they kind of infer that it's like a friend of his or an associate of his without telling you or giving you any backstory about it. Maybe they talk about him previously in the movie, and I didn't catch that, which is totally possible. But there may be something else there where I'm supposed to know who this guy is. But the guy gets killed. The doctor's very shook up about it, and he wants to take Carmen and get the hell out. So she reluctantly agrees and goes, we're going to bring the kids, as many of them as we can. We got to get gas. We got to get the gold out of the safe. So this whole time, Jacinto, him being like, well, there's something in there. I need it so we can get the hell out of here. I'll burn this fucking place to the ground. He's right. There are several gold bars in there, gold ingots, that they can't use because of civil unrest. But if you're able to get the, far enough out of town, I don't see why not.
Especially if you're thinking like a bandit.
Precisely. Yeah, exactly.
And did we talk about Jacinto's got these real sketch-looking friends that he likes to chill with?
Yeah, he does. Dude named Pig and whatever the other dude's name is.
I want you to imagine someone named Pig.
You're right.
They casted him exactly like that.
That's exactly like that. He looks a lot like me, but why I don't wear wife beaters, because I'm really hairy, like my chest and shoulders and back.
He looks like if Danny and King Kong had a baby that went to the circus.
That wore wife beaters.
And wore wife beaters that were stained.
Strictly spoke Spanish. Okay, so Dr. Guy is frantically telling, Carmen, hey, we got to get the fuck out of here. She reluctantly agrees. She says, we're going to take a bunch of the kids. I got to get the gold. We'll start getting shit ready. Come on, we'll go. So the groundskeeper catches her in the safe, like digging around in the safe that he is so desperately trying to get into for X amount of years, one can only assume.
Yeah, it's not an overnight journey for him. He's been plotting for a while. Exactly.
So you can see immediately in the scene, without any dialogue, without anything, him seeing her in it, you just get the vibe he's going to try to kill her.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, just right then and there. So they have a little bit of an exchange. So what happens is essentially the doc comes in with a shotgun cocked, tells Jacinto, like, listen here, motherfucker.
Get the fuck out.
Fucking, you're out on your ass. They don't give him any water, no food, no provision, no nothing. It's like
and
a
this
million
orphanage
degrees.
Looks like it used to be like a, maybe like a French Legion kind of, like it's a weird structure in the middle of the desert.
Architecturally, it's pretty cool looking place.
It's fantastic, but it's a fortress in the middle of the desert.
It is surrounded by nothing but desert.
Nothing, not even a tree.
Yeah, there's a cistern and a well and a dead body in the cistern. So, I mean...
So they tell him to get the fuck out and kick him out on the road.
And I'm really condensing the exchange here, but the groundskeeper gets kicked out of the school at gunpoint. His girlfriend is like, fuck you, piece of shit. So she doesn't want to go with him. The girlfriend, again, Conchita, good riddance to bad rubbish kind of thing with that fucking guy.
All as well.
Yeah, so the doc, the madame, the girlfriend, and a bunch of the boys are about to get the hell out of Dodge. They're loading up the truck, like, hey, get me some extra gas cans. They go in there to get the gas cans, and Jacinto is back. I guess he snuck in the back door, and he's got gas cans all over the place, and he's dumping gas everywhere, and he's lighting a cigarette. And all this just because he's butthurt that he couldn't have some gold in the safe that, you know, he didn't.
Yeah,
he
there's
didn't
kind of
earn.
like a resentment that he's been carrying the whole movie. That it's also like, you know, if I can't, though, like the only thing he had left that he wanted from them was the gold.
Yeah,
and that he's more or less like, fuck all of you, I'm gonna burn this whole place down.
Yeah, he's just a criminal, is what he is
for sure. And talk shit to her impotent doctor boyfriend.
So the whole movie, anytime Carmen, anybody asks Carmen about anything, she's like, I've never fucking been scared of anything in my life. Like, you can tell she's kind of hard ass.
Oh, she's been through it. She's been through the shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's clearly
she's got no leg, and
she
we don't know
clearly has
how.
lost a leg,
but guess what? Like, I
walks with a cane.
guarantee that happened later in life. That wasn't like I was born this way. Something happened.
Yeah, she earned that prosthetic leg at some point. Man, she's a hard ass bitch, but she also looks great for her age. Anyway, she takes her cane, fucking smokes Jacinto across the face. He's held at gunpoint and like, get the fuck out of here. He comes back. He's getting ready to burn this mother down, and he's confronted by Conchita, who is packing heat. Luckily for her, she's pointing the gun at him, and he's like, get that fucking gun out of my face. He's like slapping it, which is never a good idea. If anybody holds you at gunpoint, don't slap the barrel of the gun. It's a bad call. Because it's a bad call, the gun goes off. She kind of like weans him, shoots him in the shoulder. They all hear the gun go off, so Jacinto scrambles for his cigarette that he was smoking. And I thought this was amazing attention to detail. There's a bit where he picks up his hand-rolled cigarette butt. As a smoker, I'm trying to quit, but leave me alone. But as a smoker, having had hand-rolled cigarettes before, tried to do that before, they do go out very easily. So there's a bit where he picks up the cigarette butt and there's a close-up of him like blowing the ember back to life. And that's just good attention to detail, because somebody else would go, I don't know, light a big old fat fucking cherry on it. So he picks it up and throws it on the gas cans. It doesn't work like that. You have to breathe life back into it. And that teeny tiny little thing was enough to make me take note of it and go, that's right.
Good looking out.
That's exactly how it would, this is how it would go down. So he lights the gas cans on fire, the whole shebang there. Anyway, the explosion actually looks pretty good. For it being a lower budget film, especially of
2001 Mexican.
Spanish 2001
production,
Mexican Spanish production, exactly. The madame, she gets kind of the brunt of the explosion. Conchita does also, but she's a little more well protected by a wall. The scene after the explosion, mad props to like makeup and sound guys here. This whole the ringing and the deafened and like the blood that pours out of the doc's ears when he stands up. Just like pooled blood in his ear and stuff. All of it looks it looks very Saving Private Ryan kind of shit.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good comparison. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks really, really good for a 2001 lower budget film. It looks amazing. The doctor, he gets up, he's talking to Conchita. He can't fucking hear. He's like, yeah, whatever. He goes to go look for Carmen because he's madly in love with Carmen. He finds her. It's like
it calls back to the earlier scenes with them and across the wall from each other. Like it's that perfect like relationship.
Yeah,
blossoming.
It does. She's going. It's the sort of thing that you can show and not tell at this point because you took the time to build that characterization in the beginning of the movie. Here you go at the end of the movie. You have
it works because it belongs. It works because you were given breadcrumbs leading up to it.
Not in like a cheesy way or that's kind of the low hanging fruit. Because that's the poetic, beautiful way that it's supposed to work out.
If all the stuff beforehand hadn't been there, it would have been cheesy. If that's the first time he says something like that to her,
right?
It would have felt, really like
hand-fisted.
Yeah, it would have felt weak. It would have been called bullshit on it in a heartbeat.
She dies, and he's like, "Oh no!" He gets all fucked up about it. And I'm going to speed through a lot of this here. The boys are all in agreement now that Santi is the ghost, and what he wants is he wants Jacinto dead. Well, fucking, this is what we got to do. So Jacinto burned the place down. The old man, the doctor, essentially just appears to have died from his wounds. He goes and takes perch upstairs waiting for Jacinto to come back. Right. He's like sitting there with a gun, you know what I mean?
Spinning some vinyl he can't listen to because his ears are fucked.
Yeah, can't hear shit. Maybe he hears the vibrations from it. He is spinning some vinyl.
He's got the shotgun.
Guillermo del Toro loves a gramophone. How many movies does he have with a gramophone in it?
Plenty.
Yeah.
Plenty.
He loves a gramophone. And, I don't disagree.
It looks nice.
They do have a certain charm to them, Yeah, so he dies from his wounds up there. And, fucking Jacinto, he just comes back.
Now that leaves all these kids unprotected. Like, there's no adults left. Except Carmen.
Conchita.
Conchita, sorry.
Conchita's there, and she's like, listen, kids, I'm the only adult here. I'm going to go.
Stay here, stay safe. I'm going to get help.
If I start walking right now, I can reach the next village by tomorrow morning, or, whatever the time frame there is. So cut to Conchita. She's walking down the road. Here comes Jacinto.
This little old classic car coming down the road.
Yeah.
Antique is a better word.
It sure, even for on the day, it was an old ass car.
Even in 1941 or whatever.
It's very Model T looking. It's not, but it's
in that
era. So here comes the Model T down the road. You've got Jacinto, Pig, and whatever the other guy's name is. I'll call him.
I don't remember his name.
Tom.
We could look it up.
I'm gonna call him Tom. So you've got Jacinto, Pig, and Tom. So he gets out of the car. He's like, just apologize and get in the car. She won't do it. She's like, I'm not scared of you, bitch. Even though she should be, because she just watched him murder a whole bunch of people, including children. Long story short, he stabs her right there, cold-blooded, kills her in the middle of the road, and just fucking leaves her to die. Then him and Pig and Tom get back in their fucking Model T, and they roll back to the place. The doctor has died by now, so they just walk in on all these kids, and they're like, hey, start fucking picking shit up, and then they lock them all in a broom closet.
Real quick on the note of them killing her is there's kind of what I enjoy about Del Toro and good writing in general is that there's kind of this unspoken thing when they arrive where Pig and Tom they have kind of this conversation away from Jacinto, and there's this implication that whatever he told them probably isn't what really happened.
And they both know that.
Yeah, they think that he's, oh, let's see how he handles hers. One of them says oh, watch this. Let's see what he's up to. And it's almost like either they're goading him on or he's told them a different version of what happened back there. Yeah,
they're kind of, they have either bought the lie, hook, line, and sinker.
Or they're calling bullshit.
Or they're calling bullshit on it. One or the other, but it is a little indecisive. You can't really tell.
But then he cold-blooded murders his girl right in front of him.
Man, it's sad. It's sad to watch her get stabbed there, because for a second I was hoping, because you see that bit, I was hoping maybe she
got him,
flipped the wrist on him or something, disarmed him and maybe stabbed him. I was like, that'd be dope. That wouldn't be avenging.
Yeah, there's no conflict.
That wouldn't be avenging the dead. Yeah, that's not part of the story. They kill her. They roll back to the place. The fucking doctor's dead. They got all the kids. They lock them in a broom closet. They're like, haha, fuck you. You're gonna help me find that gold, bitches. Jacinto, Pig, and Tom are trying to bust open the safe. They eventually get in the safe. There's no gold in it. Just papers and pictures and shit that's not golden ingots. I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah, it's all legal stuff, photographs, packages on the students, portfolios about the kids.
In the meanwhile, you've got these motherfuckers that are in the broom closet that they're locked in and be like, listen.
Yeah, he rounds them up and locks them in a broom closet.
Yeah, is it a broom closet? It seems roomy, but
it's kind of like a janitorial space.
It's a small room. Yeah. Anyway, so you've got, I don't know, a dozen kids in there?
Yeah, it's all the surviving kids, because a lot of them died during the explosion, too.
Yeah, which is real sad, because they're, what a great cast of little tiny people.
Yeah, gotta save some money, though. Kill some of those kids.
That's right. Listen,
so every day it costs money to have them on set, so you just kill them.
I feel like maybe they just live there anyway, and he's like, listen, I'll give you all 3 pieces of bread and half an apple to work in this movie. And I'll give you a Jarritos. You ever had Jarritos?
No.
It's a Mexican soda.
No.
Ooh, it is fantastic. So. Jarritos. You ever get the chance to try it out? They come in a million fucking different flavors.
I've had Mexican sodas before, but I don't know that I've ever had that one.
Dude, Jarritos is bomb. I used to work at an adult novelty store up in Bridgeton in St. Louis, and there was a Mexican bodega right next door, and I would go over there on my break all the time and get a pack of smokes and a Jarritos.
They have that one taffy kind of candy that's really good.
Oh, that fucking taffy's bomb.
Yeah, that saltwater shit. Oh man, it's
that is good shit. So anyway, you've got all this going on. The kids are sitting in there like, listen, Santi, he's real. We all know he's real, and everybody's like, yeah, because they're all stressed out and they're tired.
At this point, they're just like,
they're tired of pretending it's not a thing.
No, he's a thing.
Yeah, I've seen it. We all seen it. We all know what you're talking about. But that's Santi, though, and he's like, hell yeah, bro, I'll talk to him. Santi's my boy. He said we're all gonna die. So what we got to do, what Santi wants Jacinto.
Well, he legitimately says, "Bring me Jacinto."
Yeah. So
straight up,
that is what they make out to do. and they start getting like fucking shards of glass and sharpening broom handles and shit. It gets real sinister real fast.
And it's fantastic because, I mean, you think pokey sticks, you're like, what are they going to do with those? Oh, no, it's nasty.
They're going to do some poking. Is what they're going to fucking do. This is like if Home Alone was an R-rated film.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
It gets real.
Some great gore gags in there you don't expect.
Yeah, they are really good.
Jacinto takes a stick to the arm.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, they essentially, they wait until Tom, is it after Tom and Pig leave? Yeah, they roll out. So
yeah, because they pretty much bail on him when they're like, dude, you're a loser and there's nothing here.
You're lying about the gold. You're
you're lying. Because they've kind of like, didn't really know for sure if he was going to come through with it anyway.
You're just a murderer.
They're the kind of dudes you meet at a bar and like they tell you they can murder your wife for like $1,000, but then turns out they're actually going to flip you on the cops so they can
right, because they are cops.
Get their sentence commuted or something.
Mm-hmm. The kids wait until Pig and Tom leave. And then Jacinto finds the gold, and he starts running for the door, like trying to flag him down. And they're like, "Fuck you, you loser, you lying piece of shit." And
but he has the gold, and he has the gold. He's got it tied all up on him. He's like ready.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's ready. He's like, "Fine, I'll fucking keep it all."
Yeah, he's like, "It's all mine now. All the adults are dead."
Yeah. He's like, "I'm just gonna kill these kids and be done with it." And then he turns around, and one of them's like, "Puta, you know, you little bitch." And then he fucking goes to chase after him, and they run away because they're children and they're way more nimble and faster than he is. So they eventually lead him down to where the cistern is. And then he gets fucking ambushed by these kids with sharp sticks. And they fucking stab the shit out of him. And it's pretty brutal, man.
Oh, yeah, they fuck him all up. Like,
they do. They're
like a great one where they stick him in the forearm and it just goes in. And you're like, God damn. It's like, and he gets up and he's like trying to fight him off. And one kid just gets like gores him right in the armpit.
Yeah, dude. The first one, like right in the armpit. That's your fucking.
That's a shit
like that's
spot, yeah.
That was the kill shot.
And I mean, and it goes in, and he's like, "Fuck!"
Right, hits the ground, and they fucking stab him in the forearm again. That one in the armpit, though, man, that made me like.
Oh yeah, there was definitely like the blow. If he managed to get out of that, he'll probably die from it.
No, yeah, he would for sure die. It's like getting your jugular sliced.
So there's like great comeuppance right here where all the kids have surrounded him and they're all sticking him with these sharp ass sticks.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like goring the fuck out of this.
Yeah.
It's not saying, you know, like in your head, however you can imagine someone being stabbed with a stick, take it times 10, even 100 times what you're imagining. Because it's so much gorier than like, you know, poking someone with a stick.
Yeah.
It's like straight up like a.
Remember when you were a kid and you bonded over murdering somebody with your friends?
It's almost like they're goring bulls or something. That's how violent it is. It's just really nasty.
It does kind of seem like it's got kind of a
matador quality.
A matador, thank you. I was like, you know, that painting, the painting,
the painting
with the guide. He's like stabbing the bull.
Flags.
So your baddie finally gets his comeuppance. He's fucking getting the shit stabbed out of him. And then he's
got like one breath left in him.
Yeah, he's getting ready to get up, and he's like, "Fuck you guys!" And they kick him in the cistern. But one thing I did forget to mention though is when Jacinto finds the golden ingots, he finds them inside Carmen's prosthetic leg. Previously, when they're loading up the truck with all the kids and shit, and they're like, "Oh, we got to get the fuck out of here," Conchita says to Carmen, she's like, "Are you doing okay?" And she goes, "My leg, it's heavier today than ever." And this whole time, she's like a badass. She's not scared of nothing. She goes, "Fuck you." She don't give a shit. She's a hard ass lady. She's like, seems real apprehensive. And she's like, "Oh, my leg is heavier today than ever." And it feels like like she's kind of trying to admit that she's actually a little unsettled and a little scared. But she means quite literally, her leg is heavier today than ever because she has like 10 golden ingots stuffed inside it, and gold is incredibly
got 40
dense.
pounds on one side.
So they fucking kick him in there, they shoot him in there, they fucking pee on him, and he falls in there via the properties of liquid.
And the golden, that's the gold he has tied around him, like it's dragging him down, and he can't swim with it.
Oh, it's in his pockets. He's got it tied to
and
his
he's like
belt
trying to
shit.
cut it loose because he knows he's sinking.
Yeah, so he's sinking like a fucking rock, baby, especially because he's losing a whole shitload of blood via one of his main arteries.
His armpits geysering blood into the septic.
Right. And he gets down there, and then there's the moment that you've been like the whole movie.
We've been waiting for it.
Yeah, there it is. Santi just fucking grabs him.
Santi's like, just comes in, swoops in like a hawk.
Yeah.
Snatches his ass.
So this kind of wraps it all up. This is the dead getting his revenge. What you get out of your classic ghost story. I liked it a lot. So as they're closing it out, you get the same like talk down opening at the beginning of the movie where they're just talking about like, what is a ghost? Was a ghost this? Is a ghost that? Maybe a ghost is this. But then you find out that the narrator the whole time was the doctor. Yeah. And he's there standing with the shotgun at the door as all the boys fucking take off.
Because he's a ghost now.
Because he's a ghost now,
yeah. He's haunting because he was in turmoil when he died.
Right.
Because they kind of get into that a little bit in the movie about whether or not, somebody's in pain when they die.
So does he not get to roll out ever?
I don't guess
because
so.
Santi did, so he doesn't because they both kind of
he's stuck there, but yeah, he don't get revenge like Santi get.
Well, his isn't a revenge thing.
He
his
doesn't
is like
get, he doesn't get revenge like Santi did.
Yeah, so I mean that's pretty much the wrap on the whole good movie. Are there, as somebody who's into filmmaking, what is a key grip?
A key grip is head of the department that loads an equipment and unloads equipment. So all the heavy shit that needs moved, like there's even dolly grips who handle the dolly. But yeah, it's typically who's in charge of like lighting things, like rigging stuff. If you need like scaffolding or you need heavy equipment moved.
He's the guy who knows where all the shit's at.
Basically, like, you remember Tropic Thunder?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you remember when Tom Cruise is like the Harvey Weinstein kind of guy and he's on that Zoom call?
Yep.
And he's like real pissed off at the director?
Yeah.
There's a reason why he says, "Who's the key gripped here?" And the guy raises his hand. He goes, "I want you to punch that motherfucker right in the face." Like, that's why, because the key grip is the guy you would want to punch someone in the face.
Right, because he doesn't know where the shit's at or what have you.
Yeah, you don't want the weak writer.
Let me ask you another question. When you see a thing in a movie and you're like, that looks fucking terrible, is that... Okay, I'll give you for instance. We recently did an episode on the movie Shooting Gallery. Have you seen it?
Mm-mm.
I think we said no. So there's this filter over the camera on the opening sequence. Now, what is the difference between, like, who trumps who as far as the cinematographer and the director?
The director trumps the cinematographer.
Director trumps the cinematographer. So does the director pick a cinematographer and go, I like generally what you do?
Most times.
Well, I've always wondered about that because when I see a movie and it's like half of the cinematography is fine and half of it looks like dog shit.
A lot of variables. So to further answer that question, the first one, then come back to this one is, so yeah, most of the time the director picks the cinematographer because they like how they work. They like what they've done before. And
sure.
They, and oftentimes they kind of grow up together. You'll see a lot of DPs and
I worked
directors.
with so-and-so back on
for sure.
XYZ.
Yeah, or we worked on a TV show together, or I was hired
Right.
for a single episode, but I really liked the way this dude shot. I want to bring him on my movie. But then sometimes like you get hired for a job, like you're a director on assignment as a term they use, which is basically you get hired to do a movie that's in development, that's already far along, you know, and kind of like what John Carpenter did with Big Trouble in Little China, where you just like come in, fill a seat, shoot the movie.
Love that movie.
I know, right? But it's like he didn't really have a creative voice in that movie. He
Didn't
just
do
kind of
much to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, like he handled the art direction.
Somebody
and,
probably
like,
were like, "Hey, John, what do you think of?"
Absolutely. Same with Christine was another director on assignment where they're like, "Hey, we have the script, we have these things. Do you want to do the movie?" You kind of cast it, you pick, you kind of pick stuff, but you're more or less just brought in to make the movie because some producers already put it together. So oftentimes that's the case. And then the other times, like certain production houses have like, "Hey, we really like these editors, or we really like this DP, and we want to bring them on because we trust them."
Right.
And, you as the director, it's like oftentimes like you're in bed with them early on. So that choice is one that you're not being you're arbitrated with. But it's also knowing that coming out of the gate. So you're kind of like, okay, cool. And you meet with them and you get along and you make the movie.
Yeah. So let me ask you two more questions and then we'll wrap up the first half of this show.
Okay.
One thing that I would like to know is, as anyone out there who this may ever come across who's interested in getting into film production, to look at The Devil's Backbone, directed by Guillermo del Toro, what would you say to them? Like, look at this movie as a good example of specifically this one thing. There are a million things I could tell you about a million different movies, but this one in particular, look at this one thing that they did phenomenally.
So I'm going to give a quick history to explain why for this answer.
Okay.
So prior to The Devil's Backbone, Guillermo had done a major studio movie called Mimic.
Yeah, I've seen Mimic.
Yeah.
This is like that was before this?
Yes.
Wait, yeah, so Mimic was in the 90s.
Yep.
Yeah,
So-
I remember Mimic.
So Guillermo got, he'd made a movie called Kronos. It went over pretty well. It was a Spanish language movie, vampire thing. And it was very low budget, really tooth and nail to get it done.
Right.
But it made him a person to look at.
Right.
So then, he made a couple things and then got on, the major Hollywood radar. Well, Mimic, they brought him in and basically were like, you ain't shit. We control this movie. It was Harvey Weinstein, for that record, and Bob, who notoriously will fuck with your movie.
Right.
And they took the movie from him, recut it, and released it. And pretty much made Guillermo hate making movies to the point where he really considered hanging up his hat. Because, you know, if this is the big show, then he doesn't want it.
So is this his...
So instead, what had happened was somebody, a Mexican/Spanish production company said, hey, you know, we can wrangle some assets together. We'd love for you to make another Spanish language movie.
Right.
So Guillermo had this idea in mind for The Devil's Backbone. So why this is important for a younger person to look at is this is what you do when somebody who has had, you know, like this is the kind of movie that when you make a big studio movie and you have to go through all the politics of making one and all the shit that goes into making one and answering to a lot of people who are above you. This is the movie you make when you get to have that creative voice and opportunity to prove yourself again.
Perfect.
So Guillermo took a step back, made Devil's Backbone with that in mind. But most importantly for a young person, I would say really just pay attention to how well he focuses on the story, how everything has a reason, how an art direction and art design can go really far in movies. It's something that, you know, I think a lot of younger people take for granted, is not paying attention to your costuming or your design or the structure of the building you're shooting at or why these things are important. With almost no money, he was able to put this stuff together, and it's fantastic, and it got him back on the Hollywood map.
Great example to anybody who's young and aspiring out there. You don't have to have $25 million to make a good movie. You just have to have someone who believes that you can do what you want to do.
If you have a supportive team behind you,
Yeah.
and you have people who really believe in what you're doing, that money doesn't matter.
There are people that can always help you tell your story.
Absolutely, yeah. And most importantly, like, you'll know where to spend your money. That's the big difference between that $25 million movie.
Yeah.
And I've known people, and I've been present for people talking about making that jump from like a $5 or $10 million movie to a $150 million movie.
Right.
And they'll tell you, like, the biggest thing is you get more days and you get fed better.
Which seems like important stuff for morale.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I mean?
really it. Like,
if you're eating ramen noodles for the 16th day in a row, and you're the key grip, and somebody goes, "Hey, where can I get that?" Blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
you're
for
gonna
sure.
Go,
It's the difference between
figure it out. So, second question, probably the more important question I'd like to ask you is, as a good movie, as a guy that likes to watch movies, what's your favorite part about this?
Oof. So my favorite part about this, it's kind of one of those movies that you can hear the voice in it. I think it's really Guillermo. It's the movie where Guillermo found his voice. This is the movie where if you watched all of his movies in chronological order, I would say this is the first one that is singular to the guy we know now.
Yeah.
You know, he's got a lot more money to spend. He's got bigger sets, better, you know, more elaborate costume design. You know, but the pieces of who he is as a filmmaker are in this movie. Like, you have all the machinations of what makes the guy we know now.
Like, where he figures out how do I take the story that I want to tell and put it up there in a way that's easily digestible and actually quite gripping for anyone who will sit and watch it. And to say anyone who will sit and watch it, if you watch the first 5 to 10 minutes of this movie, you're going to watch all of it.
Yeah, and you know in 5 to 10 minutes this is a Guillermo del Toro movie.
You really do
now.
Opening credits, I was like, this is spot on. I could go on about the color contrasts and the way that they work the warm and cools together, even in the exact same fucking shots.
And Guillermo leans into colors that, you know, there's other filmmakers that do it, but we're using him as an example since this is his movie. But he leans into colors that are kind of ugly that you don't normally see represented, like yellow, green. Right. Colors that, you know, were kind of popular 40 years ago.
Or a lot of oranges and greens and fucking real cool, like light teal blues, and then just fucking red, like red. Anyway, that's gonna wrap it up for the first segment of the show. I mean, I'm sure we could go on about this movie for another hour. I'm having a really good time, but
yeah. So the reason why I picked this movie, like, first off, I know it's not like the movie people are gonna go like, oh, I really need to go see that because it's Spanish, it's subtitled, it's for 2001.
That's not what this show's for.
Absolutely,
yeah.
But it's definitely like when Danny approached me about doing this episode with him, he was like, hey man, like, you know, usually we like them to have some kind of connection. Like, they don't, you know, it doesn't have to be thematic or whatever, but just some kind of connection. And I said, you know what? I know the bad movie I want to do. I want to do The Visitor.
You just found a good movie.
The movie's a fucking hoot. Yeah, it's fantastic. Now, when we come around to this episode later, you're going to learn that there's many things happening in The Visitor. I had a lot of roads to take.
I can only imagine We watched a Russian movie recently called Branded that was like watching 5 movies at one time.
That's what this is like.
Have you seen Branded?
No.
Fucking, you'll have a heyday with it. Or don't and just listen to the episode about it. It's probably way more entertaining. We're watching The Visitor, which is a March 1980 release. It was made previously, but that's the U.S. release date. Had a budget of $800,000. Yeah, and I couldn't find its box office earnings anywhere. This is directed by a Giulio Paradisi and screenplay by Luciano Comici and Robert Mundy. Starring John Huston, Shelley Winters, Lance Henriksen, Glenn Ford, Sam Peckinpah. Okay.
AKA one of the greatest directors of all time.
But it is Peckinpah?
It's Peckinpah, yeah. He directed Straw Dogs, The Wild Bunch.
No shit.
Yeah, like there's... If you could look up the movies he's made, you'd be like, holy shit.
Also starring Paige Connor and Joanne Nail. So we're going to go watch this weird fucking mashup thing that's a bunch of different movies. Have a couple of drinks, and we'll be back to run through it and, talk more about good, fun stuff.
In a world where 2 men want to date 1 woman, but they're buddies, only one man will date the woman. One's not very competent, and one's not very confident. 2 cops, they're both named Jason. It's 2 Jasons. And they're cops. They're not cops. They're in the CIA. They're gonna spy. It's a fun spy time. Weiss Witherspoon, Statham, Bateman, 2 Jasons, one Witherspoon. It's loads of action, like hanging out in the office, throwing paper balls. This summer, 2 Jasons.
Special thanks to Brad Sexton for our jams. Please check out his latest project at suns.bandcamp.com. That is sunds.bandcamp.com. Thanks to Lamplighter Productions for our artwork. Please check out more of their stuff on Instagram at lamplighter_productions_IL. First time listener, we're anywhere podcasts are found. But if you don't subscribe to any of those services, listen to the show for free on our website. It's just the number 2, movies.buzzsprout.com. That's it's just 2movies.buzzsprout.com. Want to get in touch with the show? Email us at itsjust2movies@gmail.com or find us on Twitter or Instagram at itsjust2movies. Want to support the show? Great. Leave a like, comment, or subscribe on whatever platform tickles your fancy. And one last thank you to our editor, head writer, producer, and host. Those are all me. So anyway, back to the show. All right, we just got done watching The Visitor, and I told you a bunch of stuff about that a moment ago. Real time, it's probably been 3 hours. We've been hamming it up, having a good time, having a couple of drinks. But we did watch The Visitor. I guess before we really get going on to it, I'm just going to... I just want to do right out of the gate, I want you to give it 2 ratings for me out of 10 thumbs. What would you rate it as a movie? Like a date night, you just kind of put this on just to have something to watch, and something possesses you to finish it all the way through. As a regular film, what would you give it? And then what would you give it as a bad movie by knowing it's bad going into it?
For a regular movie, I would say probably 3 thumbs up.
That seems fair.
I mean, there's competence. Maybe even a 4.
It is not the hardest thing to follow that I've ever watched.
No, but it doesn't make sense at the same time. Like, it's a very much like kitchen sink movie where it's like, okay, this is hot. This is super cool right now.
Let's do more of that.
Yeah, possession, child movies, child possession, evil kid movies.
Put some more Falcons in there.
Yeah, put some more Falcons in there. Let's get some aliens in here. Let's get some... let's get some car wrecks in here. Let's get like whatever.
Skinheads.
Yeah, skinheads, explosions.
Child molesters are really big.
Molesters. random basketball game with pro basketball player, like whatever.
Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah. If you could think it up, like they just threw it in there.
Yeah, they fucking really did.
But when you said like, hey man, like what movie do you want to watch? I said, man, the bad movie's going to be the fun part. So I thought like The Visitor, because like I feel like this movie is definitely one of those that people don't really kind of got a little bit of attention a few years ago. They re-released it, so some people had seen it, but I feel like it's the kind of movie like it kind of needed to be found by more people. It's a bad movie, but not unwatchable. But it's just there's like bizarre choices, just the weirdest choices.
Yeah, it really is.
It's like the kind of movie that like if you're familiar with like Italian movies and Italian filmmakers trying to make American movies, like the spaghetti western or Italian horror. It's almost like this weird like mimicry. Like they're trying to understand like why are the American movies so good?
Yeah, but they
don't
have
this. They have this.
They don't quite have
they don't understand.
They don't quite have the grasp on what
it's like a poor translation of an American movie. They're like, we're gonna go ahead and do what they do, but what if we just throw it all in there and go crazy with it? So it's definitely that, but it was all shot here and mostly an American cast as far as I can tell, but there's just bizarre choices in it. So as for a bad movie, I would give it probably on the bad movie score. I would say if like on the bad movie score, would a 10 be like the most amazing bad movie you'd ever seen, and then 0 being like it's not a very good bad movie?
Yeah, like it's good. It's bad when you go into it. You put on a bad movie deliberately.
Yeah, it's like when you're showing people The Room and you're like, I want you to watch this bad movie. It's entertaining and you'll get the jokes.
Yeah, look at how awful this is.
Yeah, I would say I don't know, maybe like a 5.
A 5 is a bad movie. I would give it probably a 2 as a movie, as a regular movie. Give it like a 7 as a bad movie. I had a lot of fun with it. It was really confusing, but that was part of its charm, is because it would just like handbrake turn left into. You remember Falcons? So it opens up. You've got Obi-Wan Kenobi staring at the sun, and then the Sith rolls up during a dust storm, and immediately know you're in for some super weird shit. This is undoubtedly shot during the LSD boom. You've got, so right after this weird opening, you've got Space Jesus recanting the religion which they follow whilst in space. And he's telling these like bald, shaved head children about a primal like mutant thing that wishes to kill everybody named Satine. Yeah. The next thing I have written is, don't break your arm jerking yourself off with all this Yahweh shit. But shortly after that, you do have my dude coming through with this old James Bond knockoff funk jazz track. And then there's
you're like looking at Space Jesus, and he's being told that so there's all these evil kids.
Yeah, there's like kind of like a sepia. Not sepia. That's the wrong term. It's like they do something to like soften the light.
Yeah, it's a really soft, really bloomy, like a lot of like Yeah, and then in Space Jesus, like so
funk music, like
the
dirty
visitor,
porno, dirty porno, fucking
the dirty visitors the visitor's telling Space Jesus, he's like, hey, so we have a new kid, we have to go intervene, we have to stop them.
Yeah,
and this kid's name's Katie Collins, and she'll be 8, and this is supposed to be a big deal. So we hang on Space Jesus's face and we push in, and you get like it's just this really dramatic eye lock.
Yeah,
and then just like Danny said, you get this bombastic, fucking like big jazz, like and it's you're just staring at Space Jesus's very blue eyes.
And then immediately after that, you're staring at a skyscraper. And then it's a basketball game, and the teams don't appear to have names. I didn't write it down.
I didn't see any real names. Like I saw SF Miners.
But the basketball game portion of this movie will be starred by none other than Wilt Chamberlain, who was in everything about this time. So that's okay. Yeah. Why wouldn't you star in The Visitor? If somebody called me and I was Wilt Chamberlain, like, hey, you want to come do this movie? What do you want me to do? I want you to play basketball for 45 minutes. I'm going to keep about 6 minutes of that totally unnecessarily.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a super exaggerated game. Like, it feels like it's filling time.
It's most of this movie feels like it's filling time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of boredom.
You could easily trim 20 minutes of this and you could trim 20, 30 minutes.
And you would
of
never
this.
know where it went.
You'd still have the same film.
And it would still be confusing.
This needs a serious rewrite. But you do go from Space Jesus in the nook of safety to the Pine Mile in the concrete jungle. I'm digging all the style up in this shit because everybody's very like 1970s.
Yeah, you're right. They have the big collars and the polyester suits.
It's like, hey, we got to fill this room with 10 extras. And then they just grab like 5 of them. And they're like, hey, listen,
move to different places.
We're about to put you in some wild ass shit. So it looks very out of place.
What's this for again?
Right, yeah. Wilt Chamberlain's going up to dunk, and the little girl, Katie, who's evil for some reason, explodes the ball. And it's the 70s bit. You got Wilt Chamberlain. He's very shocked. There's a very hand-fisted Falcon shot scene where the old man's getting his passport checked, and they go, "Oh, what's the nature of your visit?
Are you here for business or pleasure?"
And that's it. He's the visitor.
The visitor.
Yeah, because he's just here for a quick visit to kill a girl after she calls 12 people pedophiles. So old guy has a bunch of Space Jesus disciples, which you can just tell they're Space Jesus disciples because
they're also bald.
In the Space Jesus room, everybody has a shaved head.
Danny, you're bald.
Yeah.
Does this make you a disciple of Space Jesus?
Listen, do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior, Space Jesus?
There's your next ad, Space Jesus. Space Jesus. The Church of Space Jesus.
It's fucking crazy as shit. But you can tell they're Space Jesus disciples because they're all wearing matching jumpsuits and they're all bald.
Yeah, and they have like a weird choreographed dance routine as they're setting up their weird...
They do. Yeah,
I don't know how to describe them. They look like boxes of sheets spread over PVC.
Yeah, there's bizarre close-ups that are 100% unnecessary and 1,000% appreciated because they are hilarious. Like they'll just zoom in on a person like, I don't know, taking a breath, like thinking about like
it's like we need something to cut away to. Hey, what's that extra doing over there?
Yeah, it's like I should call my sister. I never told my dad I love.
And the angles are super bizarre too. It's always like
something that's totally unrelated to. Nothing is related to this.
Yeah,
so
it's almost like somebody had told Mr. Paradise, the director of this film, they said, if you want something to look dramatic, shoot them from below.
Right. Yeah.
Every angle, it's always like them floating in space. It doesn't make sense.
And they're just
making any scene that's just their head in a close up in suspended animation.
Yeah, and they're just making grocery lists in their head. They're like, I gotta get edamame. We're almost out of butter.
Shake your head twice.
Okay, yeah. You got it. Yeah. Oh wait, do we have coffee creamer at home? Yeah, we have half and half. Okay. Yeah.
Is it vanilla? Is it? Yeah.
So there's another hard cut to a weird secret boardroom agency, and Barbara's refused to marry old boy, and that's a problem. So now they're just going to reveal their real motive.
Yeah, just like that. Like you never have an opportunity to say,
she's not going to marry you. Well, let me tell you the whole thing.
Yeah, like they just roll it out. Like, and I kind of appreciate that early on there's like, man, maybe we should move that up because we have so much other weird shit we're going to throw down.
Yeah.
Like, let's just move that up and like just kind of we know where Lance Henriksen sets on this.
Right. So long story short, Barb is like a superhero baby factory. Lance has got to get to fucking, and hence the problem. So that's why they tell him all about it.
She makes superhero babies basically like super telekinetic, like Katie.
Yeah.
So they warn that if she has another baby, because Katie wants her to, constantly tells her, I want a baby brother.
Oh, yeah.
So she wants this baby. So, but then they also want Lance to make a baby with her. So is the baby a bad idea or a good? I can't tell because Katie's bad and they're good.
I think they might be worried about Space Jesus Uprising.
Yeah, because they're in cahoots with Space Jesus.
Katie is?
No, the agency.
Okay, I was like the old man in the boardroom.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I thought.
So
I was
well, who wins if there's a baby?
Who loses if Katie dies? Just evil in general? Yeah. Like the idea of evilness.
And I mean, he's supposed to be coming and taking her away, but...
he's coming. In The Visitor 2.
Everybody that worked on that movie's dead.
So it's very clear Katie has a pet falcon, and it's her birthday. And she's unstable and probably has superpowers.
She's also outright, called her mom like a bitch and been like threatened.
Yeah.
So she's very like, my super sweet 16
yeah.
kind of thing going on.
Yeah. So it's her super sweet 12th. And she gets a gun for her birthday. She's unwrapping presents. But
From who? From who?
She knows there's a gun in that one because she picks it up and runs halfway across the house to open it. And
we
then
don't know who it's from.
She sees the gun. No, you have no idea who it's from. She sees the gun. She grabs it. And she's like, yes, fuck yes, just what I wanted. And then she runs back in the other room where
Just
everybody for her birthday party is and throws it like
just casually tosses it like just across the room like,
yeah,
hey, Mom.
like it's
hey,
a
Mommy,
beanbag.
and like just throws it like, like a hacky
like
sack.
like a cornhole. If you're playing cornhole,
exactly.
listen, kids, there's a game in the Midwest. It's called cornhole. It's not what you're thinking it is. You throw beanbags in a hole in a board. She throws it very delicately like that. It hits a firm surface, discharges, and shoots her mom right in the fucking spine, which is her mom's choice.
Everything that happens to this mom, it's implied that for some reason she chose this to happen.
Right. Well, the next thing that happens is massive hospital bills, and then there's some drastic piano music. And then there's a spinal operation scene, and it's
really drug out.
It's really drug out. It's very The Exorcist, but done poorly.
And
there's an X-ray, and guess what? There's a bullet in her spine.
It's also where things get murky because before some reason, so Katie shoots mom. Mom goes on the ambulance to the hospital. We start seeing shots of Katie in her gymnastics clothes, like chilling out, stretching at the gym, just doing whatever she's doing. But then we cut back to this super long, intensive spinal surgery montage, and then intercut it with shots of Katie. So it really starts to get kind of murky, like when Katie, like basically shot mom, and then just spent the next 2 days at the gym,
just doing gymnastics, just
like
working
chilling out. Yeah,
just getting a good sweat on. So, old boy, the older gentleman, he's got a little something.
Little herpy lip.
He's got a little herpy lip going on. And not to disparage, it's 1 in 4 or 1 in 3 or whatever it is now.
Normal thing that happens, but
maybe evil demon children in this world have a magic power over random birds of prey, because at the beginning they like say very clearly and plainly, these evil children will have like an eagle or something.
Yeah, and Satine had taken the form of a hawk.
Yeah,
or an eagle.
Yeah. Oh,
so maybe that's
very
it.
Specifically.
Yeah,
eagle.
yeah.
And there's not an eagle.
There's
in
not
this
an
entire
eagle in
movie.
the movie. No, it's definitely
not one.
like a type of hawk.
Maybe they thought that a hawk or a falcon
was an eagle.
I think it's a falcon for real, because falcons are a little bit smaller. They got a shorter beak. Anyway,
yeah.
Maybe they were like, nobody knows the difference because all birds look the same. Which makes a lot of sense with the racist overtones in this film.
Like I said, there's a lot of, they're Italians just trying to translate it. So, like, the script says eagle. They see hawk. Well, close enough, man.
Just fucking spaghetti spagooty.
Yeah, exactly right.
So the demon kid calls this dude a pedophile. He's like a bus driver. And she might not be far off the mark.
No, he's the detective.
He's the detective
that's following her post gunshot.
Makes more sense. That makes more sense because he does Columbo her.
Yeah,
she's like getting ready to walk away, and he's like, "Oh yeah, just one more thing."
Out of her.
Yeah, he fucking smacks the shit out of her. And
Katie's like, "You're a bastard."
She told him to shove it up his ass or whatever.
Yeah, she goes like, "I can tell you what to do with that gun. Shove it up your ass."
Some of this movie is clearly dubbed.
Oh, for sure.
Some of this movie is very clearly dubbed, if you were curious.
I'm honestly thinking most of Katie's stuff is definitely dubbed.
This one is not in subtitles, though.
No, it's not.
So, if you're wondering what's going to happen next, it's a falcon attack. Next summer, one man, Sterling Gray, has the patience and stoic poise to make a falcon attack and literally just stop and devolve into just a man walking away.
That was...
And that's it.
That's what happened.
Yeah, that was a whole scene in the movie.
It flew up to the window, and then it turned back around, and he left.
And then there's another falcon attack from the top rope. Flies in the window, car careening out of control down a congested freeway. This is where you see where the whole budget went.
I mean, so
Except
the
not
hawk
in a good
changes
way.
all the stoplights to
Yeah.
like different colors so that it causes an accident.
I think they got such a great cast for this because they sold them on the idea of how crazy it was going to be. And they're all like, that sounds just crazy enough to work.
It seems like a favors movie to me, to be
It-
honest. It
yeah,
definitely
it
seems
really
like the kind of
does.
movie where you're like,
Hey,
I know like this guy and this
remember that
kid
time
is-
you did all my blow?
Yeah.
Remember
It's
that
like,
time you did all my blow?
If you don't do my movie, I'm going to tell your wife
Time to
about
pay the piper.
I'll tell your wife about Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So you also have like a really insane motorcycle stunt. Like it's probably the highlight of that whole sequence. So dude's getting pecked in the face in the car while he's driving, and he's causing several accidents. And you just randomly have this like really badass motorcycle stunt where a dude smokes the car completely head on. And I don't know how this man actually survived it because it was in one shot. But
Maybe he was riding backwards.
folds. Yeah, he folds legs over head backward on his neck. Like
if it's a real man and that's a real point of impact, that man died making this movie. That's gotta be a dummy.
That has
There's
to
nobody's
be-
living after that. You're the human body doesn't make that shape.
It's brutal. And if he did survive, he is probably still going to the chiropractor.
Right after this, there's explosions. There's people dying all over the place. There's fucking motorcycles and cars flipping and fucking shit all over the place. And then the camera pans. Well, it doesn't pan. It's like a hard cut to the Falcon, as if he's personally responsible for this whole ordeal.
But it's clearly
It
a
is-
falcon on a perch again.
Yeah, clearly not even the same bird. God, it's so fucking bizarre. There's a lot of ice skating.
And Katie's pulling some BS. Like she's spinning around, tripping all these boys at the ice skating rink.
Oh, yeah.
And the
And
whole
then
time the visitor's coming to look for her.
He's coming downstairs.
So we get this drawn out 3 to 5 minutes.
And there's more ice skating, and then they put that big funky jam from the intro
Yep.
back on top of this.
Of him coming downstairs, the escalator that's not working.
Yeah, and then there's more stairs, and then next there's more skating. And I cannot stress this enough how much skating and stairs are going on here. Like
it's like 5 minutes of the runtime is him
If
walking down escalators. And I mean it's looped. So it's like when he gets halfway
yeah.
down,
yeah.
we go back to Katie and we come back up and he's back at the top of the
Yeah.
stairs again.
Oh yeah. Listen, if you're out there and you're not sure if I'm serious or not, the next thing that happens in this movie is more stairs. And then after that, do you know what happens? You guessed it, it's more skating. Do you know what's next after that? That's right. It's a man going through a glass window.
Shattering the pane.
Yeah,
Just brutal, nasty window break.
Yeah. For...
And you say man, but he's like a 12-year-old kid.
Is he? Because no, a 12-year-old kid did not go through that window.
No, I mean like
a grown 37-year-old man
dressed
went
as
through
a
that
12-year-old.
dressed as a 12-year-old boy went through that window. That's fucking so weird, man. So weird. And then the next thing I've got written down is that they accuse a second person of being a child molester. And again, also not far off the mark. There's a very hand-fisted Last Supper imagery. You don't have to shove it down my throat like that. But the shot, standing alone from the rest of the film, is good. And that's a lot of this. Is like, man, if you just take that as a still screenshot,
Yep.
a lot of it's really beautiful, man. And it really is.
There's moments that are great.
But
like,
the fact
but
that it
not
has
many.
nothing to do with any part of the rest of the fucking movie except the bit where there's Space Jesus.
Good point.
It
It's definitely the moment where they're like setting up for the day and they're walking through what they're gonna do, and they're like, "Yeah, we just need to pick off a shot of everyone eating dinner."
Yeah,
and DP's probably walking around looking. He goes, "Hey, Michael Paradise, come on over, check this shot out. What do you think? Last Supper."
Oh, what do you think?
And he's like, "Fuck yeah,
it is the Last Supper." Holy shit, you're
He's
right.
like, "Fuck yeah, let's
I've
shoot
seen that
it
somewhere before.
shoot
That's
it."
Fucking, that's it, man. That's it. So you got Katie's mom in a wheelchair. Everybody's super shitty to her.
Why did you let this happen?
Like, because her daughter threw a birthday present gun at her and severed her spine. So she's shitty. Like, it's a choice that she made to be paralyzed. Everybody just treats her like an incontinent dog that they're too cowardly to have put down.
And there's a completely unnecessary subplot where now the first man accused of being a child molester, the detective.
Yeah.
This entire subplot involving the detectives trying to figure out where the gun came from that Katie shot her with. That there's a whole subplot there that's maybe 5 or 6 scenes,
and they just drop it.
Yeah, that's just dropped. Literally has nothing. You could cut it completely, and it wouldn't affect the movie.
Nope,
like, wouldn't change a thing.
Not even one bit. You can just take it.
That'd just snip gone. There's your 10 minutes of your 20 minutes. You could just get rid of.
You can take 100% of it out. So this is the girl, by the way, Katie, is Reagan from The Exorcist, but calling people pedophiles more and insisting that some dude bang her mom to make her a sibling.
Yes, and the worst language she uses is bastard.
Yeah, she says bastard like
15 times, 20 times.
That might be a little conservative with the bastards. Boy, she's throwing it out there a lot.
It's like the one word her parent, like, we won't let Katie cuss.
Yeah.
But we'll let her say bastard for this movie. Just for this.
The whole movie.
But that's the only word.
That's it.
It's like, and then Michael Paradise is saying, hey, can we get her to say the F word?
Can I just give you...
Just like The Exorcist.
Can I just give you LSD instead of money?
I saw this movie called The Exorcist.
Right.
It's like, no shit.
All right, so there are some good ideas and callbacks in this, but there's entirely too much going on. There's a like a Freddy Krueger Close Encounters bit, and it might be one of the most like deliberately obvious fucking okay, I get it, things that I've ever seen in a movie to this date. Like, hey, you seen these movies? Remember that? You remember Close Encounters?
Here it is.
Yeah.
Remember The Exorcist?
Remember that one time you watched that movie back in the 90s? Or 80s or 70s or whatever popular genre of movie it was. It was just, this is a constant ripoff of so many other things. Have you seen
The Birds?
Right. This is that, except they're only falcons, which are birds.
We have
of prey.
like 5 birds in this movie.
But they're trying desperately and really firmly to make it a thing that's canon. And it's not has to do with anything in the rest of they're really strange choices for somebody who goes, you know what I want? I want to tell a story. Then you should learn how that works.
It's
first.
like he has 5 or 10 different scripts laying around that are all partially written.
Yep, just shuffle them like a deck of cards.
Fuck it.
Just shuffle them like a deck of cards. That's why there's so many callbacks.
Mixes them up and he's just like, hey man,
we got it, baby.
Go change the name to Katie. Good, that's great. All right, we're good. Let's go make this movie.
So there are some pretty sick Tron effects. While we're on the subject of it just being other scripts shuffled together. Old guy tells Barbara she's pregnant, and kazow, she is. And then the child, she'll never see the light of day. So there's going to be like a space abortion. She's wheeling around the room like cray-cray in like a weird frantic way for like 2.5 minutes.
It's like 2 to 3, maybe even 4 minutes of her just making circles in the living room
in a wheelchair,
and the housekeeper's like watching this shit happen, and she's like, which is Shelley Winters, who's actually like a great actress. Why the hell are you in this movie?
Fucking so crazy.
But so she spins around a shitload, then just jets out the door, which is left open.
Yeah. It's as if she's a woman that's never reacted to a situation ever before in her life.
She's acting like a woman who has maybe never been pregnant and had a child.
Or she's acting like a she just runs in circles but in a wheelchair, and then for 2 minutes do you know how fucking long 2 minutes is to run in a circle? Get the fuck out of here.
And you're not really getting anything else while she's going in circles. No. We're getting just her going in circles.
No, it is just her going in circles and the maid glaring
watching
down at her from the top stairs.
And then when
like,
she leaves, we get like a couple moments almost like where, I was telling Danny during the movie, it's almost like the director, she asks, like, what do you want me to do at the end of the scene? He's like, I just want you to sing. What song was it? Swing Low, Sweet Chariot.
Oh my God, yeah. No, she does Mama's Little Baby Loves Shortening. Mama's Little Baby Loves Shortening.
And she just she drops like 2 or 3 verses and just walks off into a room, and you're like, I have no idea why this is in this movie.
There's another scene where like the bald space Jesus people, only one of them in the entire movie just like didn't shave his head for 3 weeks. So he's like real peach fuzzy, you know what I mean? But everybody, like every single other person that shaves their head in that movie for the Space Jesus cult, bicked.
I like your idea though, because they don't establish this, but Danny suggested that all the older Space Jesuses were the children of Space Jesus in space.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And I'm like, that's a pretty good...
Because they're all in jumpsuits and they're all still bald.
Because what do you wear when you're not wearing your weird like monk getup like they're using?
I
like
wear a tracksuit
time.
Or as they call it down under, a tracky deck.
You're wearing a tracksuit and you're bald, Danny. You're really starting to...
This is like, holy fuck, when did I put this tracksuit on?
He's really starting to change my opinion that he might be a Space Jesus disciple.
The way that it shows the little girl is telekinetic. I mean... Some of the way that they try to put it out there are decent ideas, but it's just really poor execution.
They're all really bizarre examples of telekinesis.
And in order to try to combat that, it's just more of that same funk music. And then...
I don't really know what that theme is supposed to be. Like, every time I watch that movie, it feels like they don't know where to put it.
Yeah.
It's like the moments where it drops, you're just like, why?
Yeah.
Why are we doing that?
And as soon as you feel like you finally got a grasp on what might be going on with the plot of the movie, Falcon Attack Handy Capable Edition. So Falcon comes out of nowhere and attacks the lady in a wheelchair, and it's
the mom.
It's again really long scene. Really long scene.
Does it make a lick like, as you're trying to explain like a scene where a bird's attacking a woman in a wheelchair.
Just go in a closet.
And, you're like, okay, like, we're going to shoot this. Maybe we need a bird that can do this stuff.
It's indoors. It's not like it's attacking you from 100 yards
Instead,
away.
we get the bird, like, perched, flopping its wings, and then shots of her reacting to a bird attacking her face.
Yeah, throw a
But
face
it might not be a real bird. It's hard to kind of tell. But then cut back to close-ups of the bird, and then back to the bird flap. And it's just this cycle of shots that don't feel like they make sense together.
Right.
But we're just supposed to be like, okay, I guess this bird's attacking her. But yeah, she runs to a closet to get away.
Because these hawk attacks, they're on the day for when they shot this, they are super violent, and then they just kind of stop.
Yeah, I mean, what good Italian movie does not have bona fide eye trauma?
Stoppage?
Like the eye trauma, like the hawk. There's multiple people whose eyes get like completely plucked out by the hawk. And of course, it's very poorly done, but that's that's what they're trying for.
That her eye is fine for the rest of the movie.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. It's very bizarre. The hawk scenes they're super violent, and they just. Like the hawk just goes away, and then they act like it never happened.
Yeah, unless of course you are in a massive multi-car pileup,
or unless you go into a different room, in which case the hawk is going to try to open the door.
Yeah, for sure. Like I don't know how a hawk. I've never seen one open a door, but this one's hell bent on it.
Well, thank God, thank your lucky stars when you lay your head down tonight that hawks only weigh as much as they weigh. Because they're not heavy enough to open doors of that style.
But yeah, then for some reason the door, you get a really random jump scare that there's no build up to it whatsoever. The door just pops open. There's Shelley Winters and she's holding the hawk and she says, she says, this won't be a problem anymore.
Hawk on the menu tonight.
Yeah, and so you're supposed to be like, oh, awesome. I guess she's going to save the day. But bam, literally out of nowhere. No explanations. Katie standing behind wheelchair mom.
Awesome.
Grabs that chair, takes off running batshit nuts straight down the hall.
You could have been a fucking like just put as dumb as this fucking whole movie is. You could just put slapstick in there.
For sure. Yeah. Would have made way more sense.
I only know my way around two things: hawks and cocks. You know what I mean? Like you could put anything in there, and
even if there was
like,
sense of humor, you would have maybe the movie would be better. But there's literally no humor in it at all.
You could have even been like, "I don't like space Jesus." There you go. Would have been a better opening line. But she's just like, "You all right, ma'am?" I don't remember exactly what she says, but I do know it's not entertaining. But again, just to reiterate, a lot of this camera work is pretty cool.
There's some good.
It's got some really good, like, kind of artsy moments in it where I'm like, well, that's
interesting choices that were made. You know, like
you knew how to show me a cool thing. You know how to show me a cool still image, but pasting it into a
like editing it to where it made sense is not their strong point. Like like whoever shot it didn't necessarily do a bad job, but the way it's cut is just terrible. Like it's not a well edited movie.
There's a lot of things that are great shots that should be zoomed in on just a bit, and then and they're just left too wide. And then there are some things that are tightened in on a little bit that they should just.
There's also really bizarre inconsistencies with Kate. Like. There's a lot of prism sort of effects where you're looking at stuff that has like a diamond shine on it. They're clearly trying to tell you something with it.
It's LSD.
Because you got to work to do. That's that's a choice you make when you're making a movie. Like not to get super techy, but when you make that choice, you're saying like we're going to shoot this. We're going to put a filter on the camera that makes it have a prism. That's a choice you're making.
Yeah.
So like to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna do that, for like maybe 20 shots. But, like it doesn't really have any like factor on anything. We just think it's cool.
Yeah.
A couple of moments with like Katie on her eyes where they have like some kind of eye light they're hitting her with. It's really big and kind of looks
silvery.
Like and you're like, oh, she has like almost like a Blade Runner thing happening with her eyes. Where you're like,
man, for a lot of this, I was like, Blade Runner.
Yeah, although it come out like 3 years before
Blade Runner. Tron, Blade Runner,
but this came out before Tron and before Blade Runner.
Oh shit! It came out before The Exorcist, but
no, it did not. That's for sure. Yeah,
because he was like on LSD.
He's definitely
hey, listen, you guys ever seen The Exorcist?
Well, The Omen had come out, The Exorcist had come out, Rosemary's Baby come out. Someone goes, "Let's I'll write you a check if you make an Evil Kid movie."
Right.
So. And I mean, and that was the choice, like, and summarizing, we're closing in on the end here. But, when Danny said, hey, let's pick these two movies that, connected ideally by something, whether it's the same actor, themes that are similar.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I want to do The Visitor because it's a wild ass movie. It's just bizarre, like super bonkers. In there is a nutshell kernel of a good movie, several good movies, maybe, if they kind of had just figured out what the hell they wanted to do with it.
Right.
But I said, I want to do an Evil Kid double feature. Let's do, The Visitor was the obvious one. But then I'm like, this movie's trying to be like 6 different movies that were happening at the time.
And that's fine. Those are some of the best movies that
not
lend
together.
themselves to commentary.
but not, the 5 or 6 of the best movies at that time are not good blended together. But so I got thinking, I'm like, well, we could do the obvious ones. We could do The Exorcist. We could do The Omen. We could do Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the classic Evil Kid movies. There's been a few more modern ones, but I thought, let's do something a little offbeat, a little weird. Let's do Devil's Backbone because I feel like, you have like what's supposed to be an evil kid, which is Santi, and they kind of flip that on its head about halfway through. You realize he's not really up to like bad shit. Like you kind of think he might be.
He just wants to kill the guy that killed him.
Yeah. And I mean,
and then you got this other movie where you get a girl that just wants to kill everybody for
whatever the hell reason she wants to. Yeah, just because she's
her
naturally.
mom's in a wheelchair. What a dumb bitch. So you've got a Ninja Turtle skyline, but it's like a cardboard cutout, and then you've got recycled old man footage on Disco Runway. And the movie,
this movie's weird. Like I said, it's almost like all on favors. You have like dudes like the old man, the visitor in this movie is John Huston, who, legendary director, was a World War II propaganda filmmaker.
Yeah.
Had made the Maltese Falcon. Stu was like a legend of his craft.
This was news to me, but the Maltese Falcon is that's good salient storytelling.
Yeah, for sure. And like if you've heard of it and you've never seen it, go watch it. Yeah, it's old, but get over it. Come on, man. Like, it still holds up. There's some movies that just hold up.
Yeah.
And that's definitely one of them. But yeah, for some reason, so John Huston's in this movie. Can't imagine they gave him a script, even though he's in damn near every frame of it. And
fucking
so the whole
weird.
time he's making these really bizarre ass like chimpanzee faces. That's the best thing I can describe. His eyes are bulging out of his head. He's like, there's not a word of dialogue, but he looks like he's tripping balls.
He's making real weird, like long extended lips.
Yeah.
Like kind of.
It's like some of the most bizarre, like crazy ass, like visual effects background I've ever, like I haven't seen anything. It's real ballsy for them to go that hard, that far, that long ago. It's like they're really confident. Like this looks great.
Yeah, it's fucking.
2007 copy of iMovie would blow this out of the water.
Yeah, it's wild the way they put it together, and then like the next thing you've got is like Monster Katie choking her mom and dragging her up a flight of stairs by the hair because she can't walk, I guess.
Well, we kind of also skipped over that when Katie appears behind after the housekeeper kills the falcon, and Katie pops up behind mom and just barrels off with her.
You can't forget about the housekeeper killing the falcon.
So after that moment, Katie fucking barrels just headlong right into a gigantic aquarium. Just shoves the mom right through it, giant plate glass, bus, water going everywhere. And it's really horribly done, but all the same, like it's meant to happen. Like, yeah. And we're left for a really long time not really knowing what happened there.
I kind of liked, all right, I'm not going to lie, when she's like, Katie's got the wheelchair handles and she's getting ready to ram her into that fish tank. Mm-hmm. I kind of like the way they like panned in, panned out, panned in, panned out. But it was too long. It's too long. It's too long to show someone ramming another person into a thing. It just
I mean, there's a lot of that in this movie where it's like what should be one or two shots. I mean, because the movie is like an hour and 40 something minutes.
It's fucking crazy.
So like you could cut some of this shit down, and it really like you're talking like some of these shots are repeated or
just
like
some
these
of
scenes.
this shit, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first. Just a little bit of this shit.
Like Danny's saying, like some of these, like a shot of her being wheeled into the aquarium, which could be effective in like 2 or 3 shots that were just a tad longer.
Yeah.
Instead, we get 15 cuts of the same shot, broke up, and then back and forth until she goes through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, it could have been done well, but it's just like, I don't know why you would make that choice.
Right. This is new heights in poor composure as far as movies that I've seen for this show. Mostly I'm referencing the scene where they've got like static positioned birds that overlay a storm at like on a projector screen, that clear printer paper.
Yeah.
So they're just like waving it back and forth in front of a still print of a storm.
Yeah.
The next thing that happens is you cue a flock of pigeons and doves that have nothing to do with the rest of the movie at all.
And so Katie's, first off, Katie's mom survives the aquarium incident.
Yeah.
Not only does she survive, but she has
one Band-Aid.
She has a single Band-Aid on her chin. Like down on the bottom.
Yep.
And nothing else wrong with her. But
And then she gets attacked by pigeons, doves, and wooden birds that are just on a stick.
So Lance Henriksen, her love interest in this movie, reveals his true self, and he's totally down with like Katie killing her because he's mad at everybody.
He's way down with it.
He's just so cool. He's like, I'm gonna sit back, watch her drag her up these stairs,
even though
whip her ass.
Even though the premise for the whole movie was for him to make a baby with her.
Yeah, absolutely, but
to make Katie.
He's like
it's fine, it's fine, I'm out.
He's really mad about it. He's like, exactly, like I'm out.
Yeah,
Katie kill her ass.
Yeah.
So he just kind of hangs out in the wings watching this happen.
Yeah.
And Katie's dragging up the stairs, like Danny was saying, just like straight up. We had her by the legs going up the stairs.
She's dragging her by the hair. She's just like,
supposed to be like an 8-year-old girl dragging her mom.
Just a grown adult, like 130-pound grown woman.
Yeah, never once were they like, Katie's strong as shit. Like this.
No.
There's nothing to prepare you for that. But yeah, as Danny said,
it's fucking crazy. And then they have wooden birds.
Yeah, like I guess John Huston's monkey dance on the disco roof summons all
That's
these.
Right, ladies and gentlemen. This is a real movie that got made. John Huston's monkey dance on the roof. We're talking about a real thing that happened, followed by wooden prop birds.
Yes. Yeah.
It's fucking insane.
So he summons through like the stars and the weird magic shit he does while he's doing his monkey dance. All these, I guess they turn into pigeons. I don't really understand, like pigeons, doves, like a little bit of variation of a few birds. And so they attack the hawk.
Is that what that's supposed to be? I thought they were just saying the whole time, like, hey, pigeons and doves,
yeah,
right?
I think so. And when I think at the beginning, if I recall, there's the story of like Satine being a hawk they're supposed to be like, and then the rival turned into a dove or a pigeon. I don't, like Danny said, then like you have all this like swarm of birds. They have all these shots of the birds floating and attacking, Lance Henriksen and attacking Katie and mauling her to shit. But then like, I guess they couldn't really afford like a hero bird. So there's this random, like, it's like a wooden carved bird.
On a stick.
And it's black. And I mean, I swear to you now that go watch this movie. And, it's actually on YouTube for free. I found out today.
Oh,
but,
nice.
And I don't encourage that. So, like, you sometimes you got to make do.
Yeah.
So if you just want to scrub to the very end of the movie and you want to watch this moment, just to know that, like, hey, man, he did not lie about this. The bird is a carved wooden bird on a stick. And to get the shot that they want of it, they're just twirling the stick and like swinging the stick, and then they have the projected background with all the other birds.
Yeah,
and it is just like they don't even try to make it fly.
No, it's fucking super bizarre.
So then it flies over to Lance Henriksen, gets up, right up on his neck.
Yeah.
And then shoots like, I don't know, like a dart out of its mouth into his neck. I don't know, like an arrow.
Like it's Pinocchio, but its beak gets longer.
Yeah.
Into a murder weapon, but it doesn't have to tell a lie.
Yeah, and it kills Lance.
Jesus. So you remember from the beginning of the movie, we were talking about that famous boardroom scene that's 10 seconds long in the wash that is all this bullshit. We go back there at the very end. But the butler is just like, whoa, oh, hey, rich guy.
Yeah, the same guy who we get a random close-up of.
Yeah,
we
and
get
they're
another
all dead.
random close-up.
Super random close-up. Like, the most high-definition shot in the entire film is just of this dude's pores on his cheeks.
And he kind of like, almost like you would give a thumbs up if you could see his whole body.
Yeah.
Like it was, but it's just his head. Like you have just the head, but you have the motion of a thumbs up. Like, yes, so like, good job.
Yeah, he's doing that Zach Galifianakis, the gif that everybody uses.
Yeah. And then, everyone's been pecked to death. Like they're not just dead. Like, they're pecked to death.
They're pecked to death. And you know who loves it? Space Jesus, but
Space
maybe
Jesus.
not. Because
can't condone murder.
Well, now there's an old man who has a new bald youngster with him, and it's Katie's reincarnated soul, and Space Jesus is or isn't thrilled about it.
He got the evil out of her, he says.
And then roll funky score, and thank God, here are the credits.
There it was. That was it.
What a fucking strange thing to make. Like if you were going to make a thing.
I promised you it wasn't a normal bad movie. It was. No. It's a bizarre movie. Like
it's unusual. I can imagine if this got a theatrical U.S. release at the time, I would have been like, let's go see that shit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean,
I'll tell you what, the worst part about the movie Hope Floats is that there's no robots or aliens in it.
Well, you're right about that.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I don't even know what is Hope Floats?
I don't know. If I'm being completely honest, I've never seen it. But take a movie like that you know exists and just fucking force feed me aliens and like throughout, and I'll watch it and be like, yeah, it sucked or whatever. But at least I went and saw it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, it's
you can do something
if
real.
I want to watch a movie about what
people
go through in real life every day, I'll watch a documentary. If I want to watch, I get enough of that.
By the way, there is a documentary called No One Saw a Thing about Skidmore, Missouri. It is northwest of here. By quite a bit. It's not around here anywhere near. Alicia and I checked it out a couple of days ago. It's about a guy that got murdered in the middle of a town of 400 people in broad daylight, supposedly by like half the town's adults. That they just
like a straight up Freddy Krueger scenario.
They just swarmed him in the middle of town.
Like Freddy Krueger is like the whole town's just like, we're going to kill Freddy Krueger.
And gunned him down down there. And now the population is half of what it was, and the place is like a real shithole.
Yeah, I mean, I would move too.
Yeah.
It's like public display of murder.
It's fucking cool documentary though. Also because it's like, it's 2 hours away from here. That's kind of cool.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. No One Saw a Thing. That's on Amazon. Why'd you pick this?
So, I mean, it's real easy to pick some trash. Like, I like it. I like some trash. I like I like a good piece of trash. Like, if
it's ever been on MST3K, I'm down with that shit.
Like, I'm of the caliber that I think a bad movie should still be entertaining. Like, I think that if the filmmakers aren't trying to make something like if their heart's not in it, they're not trying to. to entertain their audience, even if they fail miserably or the movie's totally off track from what it needs to be.
Right.
You know, as long as the intention was there to do something great.
What so tell me, have you before we're reaching the end of the show, I want to let you plug all the shit you want to plug, but first, before we do that, like what have you been consuming lately? Like, what's like a good show or a great movie you just watched, or like a book or a series that you're into?
So a couple of things, you know, like there's a couple of things I've been checking out lately. I've been reading a book called Killers of the Flower Moon, which is about the discovery of the FBI.
Okay.
The founding of the
cool.
FBI because of a lot of indigenous women murders. It's supposed to be developed into a movie right now, but it's a very procedural book, kind of hard to follow. Something.
Yeah, I like a procedural.
Yeah, it comes and goes. It's written mostly from like a more like literary sort
academic
of sense. Yeah.
It's
not bad.
Actually, it's a bizarre thing. As somebody who really gets engrossed and loves a good story, I usually prefer my reading material to be more on the academic side. Yeah,
it's strange because that's I read a lot of, if it's not like comics or something like that, like then what I'm reading is typically nonfiction.
Yeah,
which is so weird for me.
If my reading is generally going to be fiction, I like it to be short. Mm-hmm. That being said, there are some longer works of fiction that I really enjoy a lot, but usually if I want something that's just a fabricated story, I want it to be something I can consume in a day or 3.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I agree, and that's kind of what's been very slow about Killers of the Flower Moon, is that it's a pretty dense book.
What else did you say you were?
So I've also been reading a lot of there's a Japanese manga artist. Like, I'm not a super big, I'm not super into that kind of format, but
okay.
But this guy's name's Junji Ito. He's a pretty popular guy. But he's famous for doing these comic books that are horror, that are completely insane. Like, the concepts, they're all existential. Like,
what are they? Can you drop a couple names?
Yeah. There's one called Hanging Balloons, and it's, they're really short and super, like I said, existential. But like that, like he uses a lot of like weird farcical ideas. But
oh man, I'd love to see that.
Like, he presents them in like such like bizarre. It's always bizarre. Like in the Hanging Balloons, basically, this small town all of a sudden has all these balloons appear. They're like hot air balloons.
Okay.
But they're all the people's heads.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But every head is a person in that town that matches the person in the town identically.
Oh, well, that's fucked up.
And at the bottom of what would be their basket, instead of a basket, is a noose. And they float around the town until they finally catch the person who looks like them.
Jesus, that's fucked
And they're
up.
not occupied at all with anyone else.
That sounds
like you're constantly being chased by your own floating head. It's very, I discovered it because I'm working on a project right now that kind of has a lot of existential like cause in it. Okay. And that's where, it's a horror project. That tends to be a majority of everything I do.
That's all I've got for this, man. I don't have anything else for it. It was not a good, coherent film. But again, that being said, I had a blast fucking watching this and ripping it to shreds because it is so fucking stupid.
Yes.
And by stupid, again, there's some promising points to it. There's some promising points to it. The cinematography especially struck me as very like elevated. Somebody who wanted to capture the right things. The fact that it got approved is on someone else entirely. But I don't have much else to go off of it. I know that you've got some stuff to plug, which I would absolutely love to hear about.
We finished shooting we wrapped up a short film we've been working on for the last year called What Happened to the Others. Danny actually got to look at it early.
I did get a little. I did get a little sneak peek at this.
So right now we're just kind of submitting it around to different festivals. Like, usually takes a few weeks, months to hear back from some of them. Just waiting for that first one to hit. We're kind of really rolling out, like, with short films is super weird because there's not really a place to put them when it's done. It doesn't really do you a whole lot of good to put them on the internet. Always, because sometimes it just goes out there and then you just spend the rest of your time telling everyone to watch it, and they would rather be watching stuff on their phone.
Have you guys ever considered like doing a whole anthology type of deal, or does production on one thing take so long that would be a wash?
It depends. Now we've thought about it, but it's really like where we're moving our process to. It takes a lot longer. Like,
yeah,
this is actually the first thing in almost a decade of doing this stuff that I haven't shot myself. I brought in a different director of photography.
No shit.
And yeah, his name's Austin Sarver. He's an awesome guy. And so Austin, you know, like I chose someone that, you know, I could tell we had a lot of things in common. Like we liked a lot of the same stuff. But more importantly, when I looked at Austin's work, I saw what I like about my own. Like, you know, not what I like about my own, but like what I'm after in my own stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like this person shoots like I do. You know, he lights the way I do. He likes,
we're after,
you know,
the
but
same,
yet he also has his own take on it. So like, you know, it's not going to be like my show. It's going to be Austin coming and saying like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Like, how about we try it like this? What do you think about this lens?
That's cool.
It's super great. And working with him was just a dream. It was fantastic. And, you know, this is one of those things where we had like 30 people working on it, 35 people all together working on the film. And not to bore people to death, so I'm going to try and get past that. But it's definitely... I don't know,
you're fine. You're hey,
it's definitely...
talking shop about your craft, man, it gets exciting.
Yeah.
I get
but
it.
It's definitely, you know, it's the thing that we really worked on. And, you know, we have 2 or 3 projects that are short form that we're working on right now. I actually just was talking to Danny about one off mic earlier. We also, you know, have, you know... It's so cliched to, you know, I'm working on feature ideas, but we have a few in the bag should someone say, hey,
good, man.
You know, like we have a few $1 million and we feel like maybe potentially losing that. So we're gonna bet on you, a random person,
this summer.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a lot of fun, man. This has been a ton of fun. I've enjoyed this immensely. So anybody out there that does come across this, where can they check out the stuff that you're working on?
Instagram's definitely like my number one vehicle right now for keeping tabs on what I'm working on.
Okay.
It goes through phases of whatever I feel like photographing, but generally I'll post news about, you know, our films and stuff. So you could follow me at Douglas Wicker. You know, if Danny follows me, so if you can't find that, or, you know, etc.
Yeah, you can follow It's Just Two Movies. And Douglas Wicker is on our fucking shit.
But yeah, so Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't expect much from YouTube, but it's there.
No shit, you're on the YouTubes. I haven't made the plunge yet.
I just dropped stuff on there that, you know, has been around for a minute.
I will. Would you watch this if it was on YouTube? We've been doing this whole thing naked and very oiled. So if that's something that you want to watch, seems weird. It's just kind of how we conduct business here in Bonne Terre, Missouri. But if that's your thing, I would do a YouTube. Can you pay me for a YouTube? I don't know how the internet works. That's my gimmick.
Make sure you check out It's Just Two Movies. Make sure you rate and review. Share with your friends.
What a cheap shot.
Hey, it's cheap, but it's not you saying it.
Listen, I'm here again asking you for your support to just fucking do whatever you want. You're a grown adult. But this has been a lot of fun. I hope you join us next week. I hope Birdman makes it out of the hedge maze that he's in. And Space Jesus loves you.
You guys aren't going to start sucking each other's dicks, are you?
Let's call that gold talk for a one-eyed Batman.
Can I make a suggestion that doesn't involve violence? Or is this the wrong crowd?
Maybe we should call in a bomb threat to Houston. I think it's free beer night at the Astrodome.
The Jedi, Bob, we don't fight with guns, we fight with our mind.
Cousin businesses are booming.
That is one big pile of shit.
Jog on.
It's Just Two Movies is a production of Blue Cheese and Bacon Studios and can be found wherever you get your podcasts.